Joining us now on the program from Kevin's Song is Leo Nouhan. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, suicide is the leading cause of death in the U.S. Was the leading cause of death in the U.S. with 47,646 deaths in 2021. And this is about 1 in every 11 minutes. And Kevin's Song, his organization, is holding a conference coming up on January 26th through 28th in Plymouth. Leo, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Tyler. I appreciate the opportunity to share some information about our upcoming conference.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on. We've had you on previously, or have had your organization on previously to talk about its past conferences. But let's begin with just talking about Kevin's Song and this organization. Tell us about Kevin's Song, how this organization came about, and what work it does in the community to help address this issue of suicide.
Kevin's Song was started approximately 10 years ago after the death of Kevin Urso, the son of John and Gail Urso, who took his life by suicide. And in the midst of their grief and confusion and frustration over Kevin's death, John and Gail decided that they wanted to do something in his honor to help other people who might have similar experiences with a loss to suicide. So they formed Kevin's Song, and the objective was to enable information and resources about suicide and about people that are at risk for suicide and prevention strategies to be shared in the community with individuals, with mental health professionals, with educators, and with the community at large. And so that's what Kevin's Song has done over the past 10 years is sponsor a conference every year. This is actually our 7th conference. And Kevin's Song also has support groups that it runs for survivors. It is got an ongoing partnership with Detroit Public Television, and we've done a number of broadcasts on Detroit Public Television about different issues, especially affecting youth suicide. We've done a feature documentary film with documentary filmmaker Keith Famey, and we are continuing to collaborate on a statewide basis with other suicide prevention organizations in order to prevent this situation, this horrible thing from happening to people, and to try to save lives.
Kevin's Song's annual conference, their 7th annual conference on suicide, Building Roads to a Better Tomorrow, will be happening January 26th through the 28th at St. John's Resort in Plymouth. You can find more information by going to their website, kevinsong.org/conference, kevinsong.org/conference for more information, as well as how you can participate in this 3-day conference. And Leo, as we talk about these different initiatives for this organization of going out in the community and addressing suicide in a number of different ways, it's interesting to learn about this year's conference and some of the other efforts that are also being undertaken to, like you said, address suicide across the board, but also really focus on youth suicide. That's continued to be a growing issue. And so not only are you holding your 7th annual conference for your organization, you're also adding into that for the 4th year in a row the school summit that's going to happen on Thursday, January 26th. Tell us more about that and how addressing these issues in schools maybe differs from in other areas, given especially the world we're living in today and all the pressures and different factors that are impacting our kids and ultimately leading some of them, unfortunately, to taking their lives.
Yeah, I think, Tyler, that especially with the pandemic, I think the whole issue of the impact of external stressors on young people has become apparent and has really manifested itself in a number of ways. During the pandemic, actually, the height of the pandemic, the suicide rate went down a little bit, but calls to crisis centers skyrocketed. And now we're beginning to see the aftermath of those stressors and those negative factors that impact young people in terms of the isolation, the separation from friends, just changes in their lives that were totally unexpected. And those factors kind of pile on to other maybe personal issues that are going on with young people. So, counselors and teachers and school administrators are really confronted with issues that are really affecting youth in a very significant way. And so the school summit is an attempt to bring people together, educators together from all different parts of the state, to bring in some national speakers to address some of the specific issues that impact young people and specific strategies on how we can help to prevent suicide as being a choice or as being a consequence of these stressors.
We're joined on the program today by Leo Nouhan from Kevin Song, their seventh annual conference on suicide, building roads to a better tomorrow. Again, that's happening January 26th through January 28th. You can find more information on their website, kevinsong.org/conference, as well as more information on Kevin Song on their website too, kevinsong.org. For more information. And not only is the school summit part of this conference is 3 days long and is really looking at suicide prevention and interventions from a number of different angles. So for those that may be participating or just want to know about what this conference will entail, what are some of the other ways that your organization is exploring this topic and looking for ways to not only prevent suicide, but intervene in situations where individuals may be feeling suicidal tendencies?
Yeah, I could point out a couple things that would be really pertinent and might be interest to your audience. We're going to have a presentation at the school summit by Jody Sprague from uh, Spectrum Health, and Jody is going to talk about a Blue Envelope program. That is an initiative that Spectrum rolled out from the hospital environment and kind of adapted it to a school environment where everyone in the school is trained on how to identify young people who are at risk and then to respond when a child manifests these risk factors, to respond in a positive way to intervene and get that child help. On Friday, we're going to hear from a number of different speakers about things like suicide in the workplace and how employers and employees can be better prepared to deal with stressors at work that might affect their mental health. We have speakers presenting on veterans and the effect of chronic pain on suicide. We have a big discussion about the 988 crisis line. What are the positive factors of that? And how will that help, especially disenfranchised communities? We have a representative from the Trevor Project on Thursday who's going to talk about the particular stressors and factors that impact youth involved in the LGBT community. They are at higher risk for suicide, and we're going to hear about some of the strategies to combat that. And on Friday, we're also going to hear from Greg Flynn, who is the fire chief in West Bloomfield. And Greg is going to talk about the Yellow Rose Initiative. And that is a program that really celebrates and supports first responders. They are the folks that are always the first on the scene of a suicide attempt or of a completed suicide. They have to deal with very serious issues. And Greg's Yellow Rose Initiative is one that pledges support to those individuals and to provide people who are at risk with the needed help that they get, whether it's mental health support or financial support or marital relationship support. There's a lot of factors that go into what causes someone to opt or be pushed into a situation of suicide. And so these are all situations that are going to be addressed on Thursday and Friday. And then on Saturday, we have a program that's dedicated to people that have had a loss, either lost a loved one to suicide or even people that have attempted and survived an attempt. And we're going to bring in Kevin Berthia and Kevin Briggs, which is a team of national suicide prevention advocates. Kevin Berthia stood on the Golden Gate Bridge over 10 years ago attempting to jump and Kevin Briggs, who was an officer on the bridge, basically talked him down. And the two of them now are good friends, and they speak to audiences about their experience and about the need for a national strategy to combat suicide. So, all of these factors together, prevention and dealing with the loss, these are the things that the Kevin Song Conference focuses on. People can go to our website, they can go to all 3 days, they can go to any one day. If anyone would like a scholarship because they can't afford the cost of the conference, they can email me at leo@kevinsong.org, and I can make sure that I get them a ticket. We don't want anyone to miss the conference because they may not be able to afford the registration fees based on their circumstances.
More information can be found on their website, kevinsong.org, for information directly on their conference, including registration info. You can find that at kevinsong.org/conference. And Leo, what I love about this conference is that it does look at the issue of suicide from a number of different angles, from a number of different perspectives, and at different points in in the process of somebody, becoming potentially suicidal, being suicidal, attempting, and then also looks at survivors too, and those that are close to people that maybe don't survive, as well. And it's so important to look at this from all those different angles because it affects people in everyday life in a number of different situations in a number of different ways. And so ultimately, when you have these conferences, when Kevin Song has these conferences, what has the outcome been, and what is the hope from the seventh annual conference that that your organization hopes people come out on the other side with?
Well, I think the most positive thing that I can point to is the fact that more and more people are aware and are talking about the risk of suicide and suicide prevention. You know, 25 or 30 years ago, no one ever talked about breast cancer. It was taboo. There was a stigma associated with it. And moving forward 30 years, we now have tens of thousands of people who march dressed in pink clothing and wearing ribbons to raise money and raise awareness for breast cancer. That's what we would like to happen with suicide awareness. And it's going to take governments and legislatures and policymakers and communities and hospitals and employers and individuals to all come together and to change the culture around the need for mental health support and the need for identifying people that are at risk. And only then will, I think, as a society, we'll able to try to come to terms with preventing suicide in a meaningful manner. The final thing I wanted to say was that um, evidence of the awareness of suicide prevention can be seen by the fact that 2 years ago the governor Whitmer in the state of Michigan appointed a suicide prevention commission. And so for the first time in Michigan's history, we have a dedicated force of about 24 individuals who represent all aspects of suicide prevention: first responders, insurance companies, educators, suicide prevention advocates, from every aspect of our all the stakeholders. And they have come together and they meet regularly about developing a strategy for the state of Michigan. And that strategy of suicide prevention will trickle down to every community, every county, every city, and hopefully every workplace and every household. That's what Kevin Song's mission is: to help to send and deliver that message, to enable people to get together, to collaborate, and to try to save lives.
Leah, we appreciate you joining us to tell us more about Kevin Song as well as the annual conference. Appreciate you joining us and giving us all this information today.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.